everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ben's Day Off. Today we're going to be doing a pork shoulder for pulled pork. This is one of the very first cuts of meat that I ever smoked when I got my first drum smoker a few years ago, and it is one of my favorites. Feeds a lot of people. It always turns out great, so I'm really excited to give this one a try. You're going to probably see in the video a little bit later that I got a different smoker. Instead of using my Traeger today, we're going to be doing this cook in my new UDS ugly drum smoker that I purchased. I found it on Marketplace actually, but it is built by a local company, R&R Smokers here in Quispamsis. And so I'm really excited to be able to try that out. And it's a little different than the drum smoker that I was using up until now. I had a pit barrel previously, and that was just kind of, you set the damper on the bottom and then you just let it go and it does its thing. And that was always super easy to use and works great. So now the UDS drum smoker, this new one that I got, requires maybe a little bit more attention. There's a bit more of a learning curve to it. There's two dampers on the front, and then there's the exhaust stack on the top. And you can kind of play around with those to achieve different temperatures that you want. So I'm excited to learn how to use that. I'm excited to see what kind of a bark we can achieve and how the pulled pork is going to taste on the new drum smoker. So we're going to season up our pork shoulder, let it rest for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to light our UDS, and then we'll get this pork shoulder going. So we have our pork shoulder here, and it's ready to go. So you'll notice when I am seasoning this one that they've already removed the bone. When you buy them at Costco, generally they do always have the bone removed from them. Not a big deal. If anything, I like it because I can get even more seasoning in there on the meat. All right, so for a binder today, I'm just going to be using my French's mustard. Super easy to use. We just want to put a little bit on here. And this is just as a binder. It doesn't really do anything for flavor-wise. Moving all around here. Just kind of helps the rub stick to the meat. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So now for rub today, we're going to be using Meat Church. You can see that. Honey Bacon Barbecue. This is one of my favorite rubs. I've been using it for a couple years. It's just got a really nice, the smoky bacon and the sweet really comes in. It's great. So it's really gives you a nice flavor and a nice bark. Now we want to get this all covered really good. Get it on there. You don't want to miss the sides. You want to get all the sides. Help us build a nice bark. So now I'm going to be spritzing with apple juice today. I've heard lots of people do different things with their spritz. A lot of people, when they're doing pork, they'll do pineapple. Lots of different types of citrus fruit you can use. I always use apple. That's just kind of what we like. Get it in there good. And there's a lot of people that will add more rub as they spritz and before they wrap as well. I haven't really done that a whole lot in the past. Not sure if I'm worried about getting too much maybe salt with some of the rubs that I use. But I think I might, maybe before we wrap today, just add on another sprinkle of this one. Just see if maybe we can impart even a little bit more flavor. That looks pretty good right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this rest for about a half an hour, just to let that all set in. It'll start to draw a little bit of the moisture out. And while that's going on, we're gonna light our smoker. And once we light our smoker, we're gonna want to let it burn just for a little bit to get rid of some of that dirty smoke at the first. And then once we're burning with clean smoke, we can put our pork shoulder on and let it go. All right, I'll meet you out at the smoker. Hey everybody, I'm just going to walk you through what I do when I start my ugly drum smoker. So we just kind of fill the bucket with about half a bag of charcoal, and then I take about 10 to 15 coals out. I get them going in the chimney smoker, and then I dump those hot ones on top with a little bit more wood. That's what I'm going to do right here. I'm just grabbing another chunk of wood. You can look at my deck and throw another piece of wood on there, and that's good. So now all we're doing is going to throw on the diffuser plate. You'll notice everything looks kind of wet. It is raining, but that is mostly canola oil that I've sprayed all over everything to try and get it to season, because I had to scrape a lot of the barrel down from the previous owner because I got it used. But I think it came out really nice after. So we just put in our grates. As you can see me struggle here with my poor camera work. We're going to put in our grate, and I ended up putting it on the lower setting at first, and then I moved it later on to the higher setting because I didn't want it that close to the heat. But it turned out good. And that's how we light it. Okay, so we have our drum all going. We're running at about a temperature of about 280, and that's exactly where we want it right now. That's how we're looking. Looking good so far. Okay, so everything's looking good right now. We're going to let this go for 3 or 4 hours, and then I'm going to check the temperature on it. We're looking to get about 160 to 165 before I wrap it, and we want to make sure we get a good bark on it. After the first couple hours, I'll start spraying it as well with a little bit of apple juice, as long as that bark is set up nice. All right. Okay, really happy with how that bark turned out. It's got a nice crust on it, and the color is fantastic. So all we're gonna do is add just a little bit more of our rub, not a ton. Say this is a little different. We're just gonna try to get a little more flavor in there. All right, it's hot. All right, and we're just gonna add a little bit more of our apple juice as we wrap it. Make a little bit of a kind of a boat here. All right. So add a little bit of juice, our sprayer. You don't need a ton. Generally about a quarter of a cup will do. This is just going to kind of help keep everything moist. Now the biggest thing is we don't want to tear the wrap when we are putting it back on the smoker and then lose all that juice. Get it nice and tight. And I usually do just one more piece over the top. Make sure the ends are sealed. Okay. So that is going to go right back on the smoker. put our temperature probe back in. We're going for an internal temp of about 205, 200 to 205, but we will probe it just for tenderness. We want it to be just like butter, and then we'll know it's done, and then we'll pull it. All right. Okay, so we hit 205 on our pork, and then I let it rest for about half an hour. Usually I let it rest a little bit longer, but the cook went a little long today, so we'll see how we did. Looks good. Smells amazing. Pulling apart really nice. So looks really, really good. Super, super hot. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm just going to pull the rest of this. That was our cook for today. I hope everybody enjoyed that. I really appreciate you tuning in to watch my videos. It really means a lot. So I just wanted to go over a couple things kind of that I learned from using the drum smoker for the first time. So I probably, about 3.5, 4 hours in, I definitely ran out of heat. I had a big temperature drop, and then I kind of opened everything up just to see if I could get it going again, and I really couldn't. It was dipping below 200 degrees, which I thought was a little odd. But anyway, so I had to finish the pork shoulder in the oven, which is really doesn't make a big difference. Once it's wrapped, it's really taken on all the smoke that it's going to. So flavor-wise, it doesn't make a huge difference. I just more or less was getting it up to the 205, just so that everything would render down and it would be easy to pull. So that was fine. So what I think probably what happened was I probably didn't have enough fuel at the start. Generally with my pit barrel, it was half a bag of charcoal, and that would do your whole cook. I think I had a little less than a half a bag. It didn't quite fill the bucket. So I think that was definitely part of it. Also, it was wicked windy today. The wind was just crazy, and so it was probably getting a lot more wind through the drafts than maybe I thought it was. So I think there's a bit of a learning curve there. So I think next time I'm either going to try it with lump charcoal and fill it right to the top, or I'm just going to try to use a little bit more of the Kingsford briquettes. Either way, flavor was fantastic. I really enjoyed using the drum smoker. It's just hopefully, getting some of these kinks worked out so that I can get the temperature that I want for as long as I want. But I'm really excited for being able to keep using it and all the different cooks that we're going to be doing in the future. All right. And once again, thanks so much for being part of my day off.